You ready to do this, Steve?
I am ready to do this, Spence. Punch it, Chewie.
Welcome, super friends, to the Fortress of Nerditude podcast, a safe place to talk about all things in nerd and pop culture. I'm Spencer Stapleton, and my co-pilot, as always, is Steve Madura.
Feliz Navidad!
We're two best friends that, despite being fathers and husbands, we just refuse to grow up. Thank you for joining us. This is episode number 56. We release every Thursday morning on iTunes, Google Music, and Stitcher. If you like what you're hearing, hit that subscribe button and get us automatically each and every week.
We'll be on time.
Steve, we are back at it again in the Fortress of Nerditude. How are you, my friend?
It's days before Christmas. I am fantastic. Is there any other way to be?
No. This is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I must admit.
Yeah. Is it snowing in Utah? Is there any snow on the ground? White Christmas, Bing Crosby?
Well, I mean, if you're John McClane and you're in the Nakatomi Plaza, it could be a white Christmas with that one guy, Ellis, that's doing the coke.
Oh, yeah.
But right now, there's not really any snow out here. We did get a light dusting probably 2 days back, just enough to make it a little slick once, the temperature dropped and the sun went down. But nothing serious of consequence in the valleys yet.
It's been like 40s and 50s. Honestly, it was cold last week. We had a little bit of snow. There's a few piles of it around, but it warmed up the last few days and it's gone. I'm like, no, come on, just white Christmas, man. It can melt afterwards. Do you remember those days as a child when those Christmases when you'd it was Christmas morning, you'd open up your windows and you'd see, the beautiful blanket of white on the tree limbs and stuff, and you're just like, this is going to be a good Christmas. Santa's been good to me this year.
My window faced a freeway overpass, so all I saw was trucks going down I-94 all day long every day. So I never got that picturesque Norman Rockwell vision that you had.
That was at the orphanage, right?
Right, yes, at the orphanage.
I got my Christmas orange.
No, you know what? I don't want snow right now because we leave on Friday and we drive up to Montana.
You're a heartless person.
I want clean, dry roads all the way there because it's a 14-hour drive with the children. And, because you got to make extra stops. When you drive with kids, it's...
Oh, yeah.
I used to be able to make that drive in 12 hours. It was like I'd pee in a bottle and, keep going. But now it's like, we got to stop and the kids need to stretch their feet and they need to go to the bathroom every 10 minutes, it feels like.
Now, you still prefer doing it in the bottle, though, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean,
that's just comfort.
What am I, rich? I'm going to use a bathroom?
So your special 14-hour drive is going to take precedence over millions of children throughout the Salt Lake Valley.
Now,
is that right?
But
right?
I say this, my drive, though, was on Friday, not Christmas, Friday. So I'm saying the snow can happen. It just needs to happen after I make that 14-hour drive. So if it comes on Saturday or Sunday or on Christmas itself on Monday, I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Just not right now.
Not as Scrooged as I thought. That's good. Speaking of Nakatomi Plaza, today I had a meeting down south, and I was down there with a few colleagues and whatnot.
And you were stressed out, and you felt that you should make little fists with your toes. Take your shoes off?
Yes, it was odd because it was a lunch meeting, so I was just walking about, and
weird.
They said the smell is making us nauseated. We can't eat. We lost our appetite. Party's over. No, so after we'd finished the meeting, my buddy said, hey, there's this place that I wanted to take you to and show you around.
Sorry, go ahead.
And it's called Galloping Ghost. Which is one of the largest arcades in the country. And it's the place where Josh and I believe Gabe Patello went when they were in town for Gabe's concert. Remember when he sent us that picture? And I have seen the Promised Land, my friend. I have been there and I have come back and I wish I had a t-shirt to show for it. This place is it's not a warehouse like I thought it was. It is this huge, I mean, it's probably got to be at least 10,000 square feet of space, but they have 580 plus games. And they've got the old school, the retro, they've got, shooter games, they've got side scrollers, pinball, all kinds of games.
I saw the picture you sent me with Aerosmith's Revolution that we talked about last week.
Eat the rich, man. Eat the rich. Yeah, I played that freaking game.
Are you shooting records out of that little gun thing? Is that what it is?
You can shoot records out of it, but it's mostly just actual guns and shooting people. But, that game is weird because it went on and on and on forever. Like this one boss, I literally sat there and shot him for like literally 5 minutes. I'm like, this isn't going to end. I don't know what the problem... Like...
Was it playing like one of Aerosmith's longer cuts or something?
Right. Dream On extended version. So I went there with my friend and I'm telling you, like some of the games that I played, it was like a trip down memory lane. I played like Simpsons. We beat the Simpsons game,
nice.
Arcade version. Bad Dudes from Pizzavilla, played that junk.
Yep.
Nintendo's Punch Out. Only got to Bald Bull, couldn't beat him. It was pretty sad.
What?
It's been a long time, man. He does the
Come
back
on,
and
man.
then I know, it was bad.
Muscle memory.
Super Hang On with the motorcycle, and then there's actually a Die Hard game. This is where I made. This is where I know that game. Is that game awesome?
I love that.
Dude, that freaking game is actually awesome.
There's actually like a trilogy of Die Hard games.
Is there?
And like usually the one machine will have all three. The first one is the best one. The other two kind of suck.
Dude, the playability on that game, it's kind of like it's not a side scroller. I mean, you can walk around and do different things, but like you got like tons of different moves. All of the machine, like you can pick up anything on the board. And then the different guns you have, like a bazooka, flamethrower, like I don't know. It's anybody who's out there, like the arcade version of Die Hard is freaking awesome.
Yeah.
And then this one game that I was kind of surprised about, it's called The Grind. Have you ever heard of it?
My mind's telling me no, but my body.
Sing it, R. Kelly.
My body is telling me yes. That kind of grind.
Yellow Rain, baby. Yellow Rain. No, it's like this. It's like Princess Purple Rain. I don't know what he was eating. Eggplant, maybe. So this is an arena-style Hunger Games with a rollerball. And it's basically kind of like you're in this arena. It's 2 to 4 players. And you're shooting. There's tons of different kinds of guns around, like all these different Turok-style guns. And you just try to get as many kills as you can. But it was so much. And you have like a rollerball as well. So you've got a joystick and a rollerball. So you've got this really cool maneuverability. We played it for a while. It was
okay. Now let me back you up a little bit in this story.
Yeah,
you were taken out for a lunch thing today, and this is what you did.
No. The lunch thing.
This sounds like you were there for multiple hours.
No. So it was a different. We took lunch to a bank because we have a bank client, and we brought them like these like gourmet taco type things, and I ate like 12 of them. I embarrassed myself. Anyway, that's different and apart from what. And then afterwards, my colleague and I went out to this place, and honestly, like. The hours flew by, and I got out, and I'm like, "It's night." It was like the scene from Zoolander or from Zootopia. So, anyway, Great time. So, anybody who's in the Chicagoland area, it's in LaGrange. It's called Galloping Ghost. It is freaking amazing. So, I don't know why that. Hey. Yeah. So we did that today. So it was pretty awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, let me tell you. I had a great weekend. We celebrated. Let's see. Last week we celebrated Charlie's actual 5th birthday on his birthday. We went out to what I told you we were going to do, Cracker Barrel, because he wanted to go to the pancake restaurant.
With the 90-year-olds.
Which I had 2 servings of the hash brown casserole. Which
is that
like
with the cheesy?
Yes, the cheesy hash browns. Oh,
freak, that is so good. They don't have the bran muffins anymore, though. They used to have really good Apple brand muffins. They don't have any more.
No, but they'd have corn muffins that are still pretty good.
Corn muffins don't keep you regular.
Cornbread. Well, that's true. Anyway, we did that on his actual birthday, and my mom was in town, so we got to celebrate, and that was kind of fun. He woke up in the morning, and we had all these balloons that are still actually up. Only one of the helium balloons has fallen. The rest are still up. And a few of them are Mylar, because I got like this pack of Mylar balloons. for like $15, and it was like 5 of them, which is a pretty good deal.
And did you have them blown up at the place, or did you blow them up?
Yeah.
Oh.
No, yeah, they're blown up at the place. Because it's all helium. I don't have a helium tank in my house.
That's what I was about to ask. I'm like,
yeah.
be careful of smoking around that thing.
Right, exactly. So we did that. So he woke up and there was balloons, and that was really awesome. He was super excited to see him. And then we waited till Saturday to actually do the birthday party. And so we just had family over. Like I told you, we're keeping it low key.
Sure.
And we set up some decorations, and we did like a pin the tail on the donkey, except it was a pin the star on the Mario and Luigi to like power them up and get them away from Bowser. And then I bought all these little coins that have Mario's face on them. They're like little plastic coins. Mm-hmm. And the idea was I was going to hide them throughout the house and have a scavenger hunt. And I got lazy. And we were trying to do all the other stuff for the party. And I was like, okay, kids, like on the like at the spur of the moment, I was like, okay, kids, we're gonna play a new game called Stomp the Goomba. And the Goombas, the little mushrooms, Mario jumps on. And I said, okay, so here's the deal. You guys all have to start jumping up and down. The Goombas are in the carpet, and you gotta stomp on them. And when you stomp on them, coins are gonna pop up. And so I was like, hit it, Mom. And she like played the Super Mario theme like off of YouTube on her phone. And I was like, jump. And they all start jumping. They're like, we're stomping the Goombas. And I start going, ding, ding, ding. And I started throwing handfuls of these coins up in the air. And they were just like diving for him. It was like, it looked like a parade on the 4th of July when they throw the candy from the floats out and all the kids like scramble. And so
it's the mosh pitting.
Dude, like we did that probably for a good 45 minutes. They loved it.
How many coins did you have?
Like 40 or 50. Because there was like 10 coins for like $1. And so I got like 4 or 5 packs of it. But it was Josh's kids, older kids, Drew and Natalie, and then Charlie and Jackson. Like Drew is like 10. And Charlie and Jackson combined are like 8.5, I mean, right. Drew's jumping all over the place and grabbing them. Like, he wasn't pushing any of the kids down, but like he was taking every opportunity to seize every fistful of coins that he could.
He's a Stapleton. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Anyway, we had a lot of fun with the party. Cake and ice cream, presents, all the rest. Really, really good though. And so that was a lot of fun. Now, I had actually bought tickets to go see The Last Jedi Saturday night, because we were going to go Thursday night when it originally came out, but our babysitter situation kind of fell through, so we moved him to Saturday night. Then I get a phone call from one of our super friends.
What?
Jason Bolth. He calls me up and he says, hey, I've got some extra tickets to the corporate event showing of The Last Jedi. Do you want to come join me? I'm like, yes, what time? And so I actually got to go Friday night to go see the movie and Saturday night with my wife.
Gosh.
So I've already seen it twice in the first weekend, but it was just really cool because like I got to go hang out with Jason and his daughter, and then his older brother Mike showed up and took one of the tickets, and I hadn't seen Mike in like 20 years. And so it was kind of cool. We all got to kind of hang out and talk for a while and just had a good time.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
And of course, I got to see it for free once on the weekend and paid for it the other time. So
let me ask though, like I don't want to know anything about the film because I have not yet seen it. But what was the atmosphere like?
At the corporate event, it was pretty wild because there was a lot of like they'd had this big kind of corporate event earlier in the day, so like there was like lightsaber giveaways. So like a whole bunch of people in the audience had lightsabers, and the people were dressed up, and I mean it was like,
and this is a corporate event for like Jason's company?
Well, not his company, but it was like an IT provider, like an IT company provider with a bunch of other IT companies.
That's awesome.
And they're like,
it's quite the demographic, right?
Well,
IT dudes.
It's one of these things where, like, it's kind of like the dog and pony shows, right? You got a vendor who wants to sell you stuff.
Yeah.
So they put on a corporate event, and that's what it was basically. And it was all these IT companies that were invited to it, and so they were giving out stuff, and like people were dressed up, and people had Star Wars shirts on. I mean, I came in a Star Wars t-shirt, but I mean, some people had like custom Star Wars shirts made with like their company stuff on it, like little Star Wars sayings, and it was pretty wild and raucous. But then Saturday night when we went, it was a little more subdued. There wasn't. I think I saw one guy in costume, and then just a couple people in some Star Wars shirts. But like on a big event like this, if you really want to go out with the crowd, with the nerds and the geeks and have a lot of fun, you got to do the opening night because that's where it's the best atmosphere.
Right. Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah. So a lot of fun.
Thanks, Jason, for calling me, you jerk. I'm kidding. I'm just kidding.
Yes. Thank you, Jason. I do appreciate it. Steve, before we move on, I want to go back to something that happened last week. We had a conversation, and our good friend Johnny Casino says to me on Twitter, says, "Hey, I'm just catching up, and you guys got a couple things wrong." And so he corrected us, and I thought, well, let's set the record straight. We had a talk about Jessica Jones, and we talked about Kristen Ritter, and you asked if she was the daughter of John Ritter. Yeah. And I was like, I don't think so. And Johnny Casino's like, actually, she is. And then I looked it up, and actually, she's not. Her father's name is Gary Ritter, not the Three's Company star John Ritter. So,
well,
there was that. Then we also talked about the whole Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con,
right,
or Salt Lake Comic-Con,
right.
And you made an analogy about like how like, oh, that's like CrossFit trying to sue other CrossFit places from using the term CrossFit. Actually, there was a lawsuit with the originators of CrossFit because they trademarked the term CrossFit. So any other people that aren't actual franchisees of the CrossFit brand and use the name are in violation of a trademark.
Well, and Comic-Con did not trademark the Comic-Con name when they.
Comic-Con is a trademark name.
But it's not of the San Diego Comic-Con because they weren't the first to use it, right?
Right, they weren't the first to use it, but they were the first to trademark it.
Huh. Then the idiots that didn't trademark it when they first used it, well, shame on them.
Right.
Very cool. Anyway, well, thanks, Johnny.
I thought it was really funny. Johnny's like, 1 for 2, Johnny. I mean, Johnny's a good friend of the show. 1 for 2, 50%, Johnny Casino.
I'd take him to the casino with those kind of odds.
I mean,
see what I did there? I used his last name and then I did the odd thing.
Bet on red or bet on black? What do you do, Steve?
Half and half. That's a wash.
What? Oh, man. I
always bet on black, man.
Come on now. There you go. I set you up. Always bet on black. And tax evasion.
What? Oh, gosh.
Cool. Good old Wesley Snipes.
That's right.
Anyway. Steve, what do you say we move on to our favorite part of the podcast?
I say yes!
I always have to let you know, many Bothans died to bring us this information.
Rest in peace, you Bothans.
Woo! Okay. Steve,
yes.
It's Rebel Intelligence time, man.
Yeah.
Rebel Intelligence.
Do you want me to go first?
I don't care, man. Flip a coin.
Okay. Do you have any of those Mario coins left? No, you gave them away.
No, I've got like 50 of them sitting there.
No, I'll go first. So I actually found an article this week reading in the Wall Street Journal, which I always think these are kind of just a different take on some of the things we normally talk about. This is a story of some obsessed Star Wars fans, being that we were just talking about Star Wars, who do kind of, I'll call it investigative journalism into all things in kind of nerd and pop culture, a lot of the things that we would talk about here. And there's a guy, his name is James Burns, and he runs a...
Sick. Is his middle name Sick?
James
Sick Burns. No. Sorry, go ahead. Ignore me.
Slap your mouth. Anyway, so he runs a pod, or he runs, I don't know if he runs a podcast, but he has a website where he's kind of a Star Wars zealot. He's got a few people that write for him, and they talk about kind of all things in that type of axis. So fills his obsession with sci-fi stuff. Anyway, one of the things that they got a tip on, I think it was last week or maybe a few weeks ago, is the actual location, the parking spot, as it were, for a hunk of metal that is claimed to have done the Kessel Run in under 12 parsecs. So they actually found the location, the parking spot of the Millennium Falcon. And you can actually look it up on Google Maps. It's in London, about about an hour southwest of London in near a sound studio or a movie studio where they filmed The Last Jedi, scenes of The Last Jedi. So what's kind of interesting, though, is that it's actually like shrouded in a purple tarp, half shrouded in this picture, as you can see it on Google Maps. And they basically just took a bunch of like containers and like stacked like 2 or 3 containers and then bordered the entire thing. But clear as day. And so they were like, this was, of course, like liquid gold for them, being able to kind of unveil the story. And of course, now it's common knowledge and you can find it on the internet. So that was kind of a cool story, though.
It's interesting what is hidden in plain sight so often that like Google Maps now is like, and Google Earth has become such a big thing that, you know, you have to go to extraordinary measures now to hide things.
Yeah. Weapons of mass destruction, you know, freighters. Or the
Millennium Falcon.
Or the Millennium Falcon. The one things, though, you cannot see from a satellite are the signed notes from J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson that actually signed the Falcon. A little too small to see.
Oh, interesting. Big news in our realm of the pop culture world. We've talked about this a little while ago about the purported deal that Disney was looking to work with Fox to get 21st Century Fox. This has happened, Steve, for the tune of $52 billion with a B.
Really?
Disney is purchasing Fox, and it looks like it's gonna happen. What this means for the fans is kind of great, right? But for the fans of Deadpool, X-Men, Fantastic Four, all those are coming back. They're going to be in Marvel Studios control. They're going to be able to join at some point if Marvel wants into the MCU. It'll be interesting to see how that happens, though, because they already have kind of a plan for, obviously, Avengers Infinity War and the upcoming Untitled Avengers movie, plus kind of some of the Phase 4 stuff that's going to happen after that. But it'll be interesting to see if they start trying to weave in the X-Men and the Fantastic Four into Phase 4 and, you know, kind of what's going to go on for the next 10 years or so. But they've got a lot to work with.
Now, didn't we talk about this, though, a few episodes ago, and we made some loose, I wouldn't call them bets, maybe just estimates as to what kind of price tag that would have?
We sure did.
Do you recall those estimates? I don't.
I recall that my number was
Mine was
higher.
like 51 million, I think, or 51 billion, I think is what mine was.
I think your number was like 10 billion.
We'll have to go back.
I'm pretty sure that my number was much higher than yours, and I'm still underneath the mark of where I thought it was going to be.
Johnny Casino, if you could fact check that for us, that'd be appreciated.
Right, and at least get 50% of the facts right on it. Anyway, Steve, this is really interesting. Also, like properties like the Avatar series, now will be owned by Disney. The Simpsons, obviously, they're going to get like the FX network, National Geographic Channel. They're going to be getting sports, and it's basically anything in their movie division, anything in the kind of like the sporting realm.
But ESPN is different.
ESPN's already owned by Disney because that's ABC.
That's right.
So like so exactly like if you think about it, now you're gonna have, you know, ESPN and Fox Sports kind of, you know, under the same parent company.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But there's some other things. Disney owns a small portion of Hulu, but now that they're buying out Fox owns a much larger stake of Hulu, and so
their powers combined form Captain Planet. They have like a majority stake.
They're going to own 61% of Hulu, and so that'll be interesting to see what happens because you got other companies like CBS and NBC and some others that are involved in Hulu. But Disney's already talked about, and we've talked about this previously, they're going to spin off their own streaming service. So what does this really mean for Hulu, considering now Disney would be the majority shareholder in the business.
Do you think that instead of reinventing the wheel, not that they don't have the funds to do it, but that they would already use the pre-built Hulu platform and just use that, the customer base and everything else to...
I don't know.
Interesting.
I don't know. That also, there's a big channel in the UK called like Sky UK that Disney already owns a big portion of, but Fox owns some, and so like now they're gonna try to get like full control of that. And there's also some channels in India. So, plus of course, like we said, Star Wars: A New Hope is now going to be owned by Disney because it was in perpetuity kept with Fox when Lucasfilm was sold. So, there are a lot of big changes. I know Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney, has now said he's going to stay on at least till 2021, to kind of oversee the transition and the purchase and make sure everything goes really well. So a lot of things going on. The interesting thing I read somewhere about this whole thing is that now Disney, because we had six major motion picture studios in Hollywood. And, demographics are changing, the industry is changing, and now with this purchase, it's going to go down to 5. So the big 6 goes down to 5. So we're going to start seeing, companies go out, and a lot of people said they thought maybe Sony or someone else would go out that's smaller, like Sony Pictures would disappear. But Fox was one of the bigger ones, and it's the one that's been sold. And so now Disney is going to own 40 or 41% of all the movie studios, or like the movie studios that release movies in all of Hollywood. One company is going to be 41% of all of Hollywood. That's crazy to me. So $52 billion, Steve, if you got a little spare change lying around in the couch, man, maybe you could buy Disney.
I got that. Some pocket lint as well, but I'll have to pick through that. Very, very interesting. Very cool. Speaking of Star Wars and all things Star Wars, trying to find the actual New Hope DVD, it is still expensive. Like, you can't find like cheap new version. I mean, I've been shopping for it for some holiday stocking stuffers, and I'm like really surprised. I'm like on Amazon, I'm like, really? Like, this is still really like
if you want to get it, you can get a Blu-ray copy of it that's a special edition that comes in the original trilogy. But if you're looking for it, there was the unedited version.
Exactly.
That's not the Blu-ray up convert or any of that, the cleaned up version. Doesn't have all the special edition junk in it. The last time that was manufactured, and this is ridiculous that I know this off the top of my head, I think it was like 2003. And they released a double disc of each of the original trilogy movies that had the special edition stuff, and then they also had a DVD disc that had just the original. I remember I bought them back in the day because I wanted to have them on DVD, and they haven't released anything since. There isn't the just original version. Now, I totally would be okay buying a Blu-ray version where they kind of cleaned up the film of the original, unedited, despecialized version, so to speak. I would buy that. I'd pick that up again. But I don't need all the extra stuff that George Lucas decided to tamper
I don't want
with.
Jabba walking around. I hate that. Yeah. Anyway, so but speaking of Star Wars, one of the things that I thought was interesting is I heard that the crew of the International Space Station will actually be...
What's up, ISS?
What's up,
Another
guys?
big listeners.
They're huge listeners. They unfortunately get the feed, though, like 2 weeks late. It just takes a while to get there. But they will actually be doing a screening of The Last Jedi. I don't know kind of the timing of it all, but... They're members of the crew that speak both English and Russian, but they will get the digital files and can play them either on a laptop or on a standard projector, though they've been told not to drink the soda that comes along with it because it's going to go over where getting the machines and all that jazz. So
I'm going to laugh. I'm going to laugh when something happens and they accidentally like transmit the movie out to the internet.
Yeah, right, exactly. Thanks a lot, guys. Hit some satellite instead of the space station, just beams all over the world.
Right.
Our revenues have plummeted.
Not speaking of Star Wars, but Steve, you remember a little while ago we had a conversation about how Amazon wants to do a Lord of the Rings kind of TV series that's going to cover basically the same story that the movies covered.
I recall.
So basically, this is really, really interesting. Sir Ian McKellen, who played famously Gandalf.
Fantastic.
He was on the Graham Norton radio show on the BBC over in England and in the UK. And basically, Graham Norton asked him, how he'd respond to the prospect of another actor playing Gandalf. And his response was, "What do you mean, another Gandalf?" He says, and then he went on to say, he says, "I haven't said yes because I haven't been asked. But are you suggesting someone else is going to play it? Gandalf is over 7,000 years old, so I'm not too old." Basically saying hey, if you ask me, I will play this role again. Now, we kind of talked about this before a little bit, where what was Val Kilmer was kind of almost begging for a role in Top Gun 2 Electric Boogaloo or whatever it's going to be called. But kind of this whole hey, I'm still available if you need me sort of thing. But this is Sir Ian McKellen, and if you're going to do a Lord of the Rings, and I don't think anyone hated him as Gandalf, universally.
Oh my
loved.
gosh.
And he's saying hey, I'm available. I haven't said yes yet just because you haven't asked. Call that man up. Make him your first casting choice. Get him on board. Even if everyone else is horrible. Even if you've got cats playing the other roles. I don't care.
Cats and cucumbers. Yeah, this is like the blonde hottie in chemistry cast. It's I've never gone out with you because you haven't asked me. Just dude, call him up. Not that Ian McKellen's a hot blonde.
Right. Anyway, I'm just saying, give that man a call.
Yeah, man.
Hit his digits.
But speaking of hot blondes, DreamWorks and Netflix Animation are actually just announced that they've slated a new animated collaboration set to launch next year that will feature none other than the legendary Princess of Power herself, She-Ra. Really?
No, not really.
Yes. Barb doesn't get one, but She-Ra gets one.
How do you feel about She-Ra coming back?
It's just the bandwagon type of thing. I mean, there is a quote though from Netflix and DreamWorks itself. So this isn't just me pontificating and conspiracy theory. It says the trailblazing power icon originally debuted in 1985 to satisfy the overwhelming demand for a female lead fantasy series. Anyway, so, celebrates female friendship and empowerment, led by a warrior princess tailor-made for today's girl. So,
let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
You're going to dip back into the 80s and remake a cartoon for Netflix. She-Ra is your go-to, not He-Man?
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't He-Man the more popular of those two, and She-Ra was the spin-off for girls?
Yeah, definitely, yes. No,
I mean that's saying hey, we're not going to do a Thundercats cartoon, but we are going to do a Cheetara cartoon, which I totally would watch.
Yeah. Don't injure your tongue there. You might pull a muscle. It is a little odd. I don't know if there's going to be a huge following. I don't think a lot of people who watched She-Ra back in the day would jump on the bandwagon, and I don't think it's necessarily going to be appealing to a lot of girls nowadays. I don't think. I don't know. I just.
You mean girls that watch the original? Or do you mean just girls in general?
Girls in general now, because I don't think the girls that watched it who are now 40-somethings who watched it back then are going to watch it now, and I don't think the girls of now that are that age to watch it are going to be interested. I don't know. That's just my thought.
If they brought back Adam, Prince of Eternia, would you watch him?
No. It was a great show back in the day, but man, I ain't got the time for that.
Here's the thing. I wouldn't watch it either, but it's because it feels so, if you look back at that, it feels so dated. It was that
look
was
at
a
his
moment
hair.
in time when those cartoons worked, but nowadays it's I wouldn't watch He-Man. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it did have a very catchy theme song.
Dun 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 dun.
Hi, I'm Adam, Prince of Eternia. When I held aloft my sword and said, I have the power, I became He-Man.
That almost sounded like a Trump impression right there. Or maybe like the Mayor Quimby from Simpsons. When I held aloft my power.
I tell you right now. Then Mayor Quimby.
Yeah,
right?
I like that.
I will not do what they say just because they say it. I will do it because I don't know what I'm saying. I don't know, whatever. It's a little more positive.
Go more like John F. Kennedy there.
Well, that's what Mayor Quimby is.
I know. He's a Kennedy.
It's that Bostonian, John F.
What
Kennedy.
you can do for your country, but what your country can do for you. Or vice versa. Anyway.
I'm going to have to get a really good Quimby line somewhere later down the road then. Because he's not in a lot of episodes, but he's always really funny when he's there.
He is funny.
Anyway,
I beat the
are you
Simpsons
done
game.
with the She-Ra thing? Have we?
Yes, I'm totally done with She-Ra now and forever.
Until you watch it when it comes on Netflix.
Right, exactly.
Secretly, when speaking of no one's looking, I'm going to watch She-Ra. Steve, the Game Awards happened just like a week ago. I don't want to run down everything, but I did kind of want to talk about some of the big ones. Game of the Year was interesting because you had 5 games that were up for it. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Super Mario Odyssey, PlayerUnknown's Battleground, Persona 5, and Horizon Zero Dawn. And I know a lot of my friends online that I talked to were really worried that both Legend of Zelda and Super Mario Odyssey were in the running. They thought that maybe votes would be split between the 2 Nintendo products, and then it would go to like PUBG, PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds.
Right.
And Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild won. And I loved that game. And I loved that game. It was so much fun. I put in like over 100 hours into it. But once I beat that game, I pretty much put it down. And I haven't picked it back up and played it. Like, I put in over 100 hours into that game, playing it every night with the boys and, going around and doing stuff. And they'd watch it a little bit, but like, they'd go to bed and like Breed and I would still play for hours and, do all the shrines and the temples and anyway. But like for me, man, Super Mario Odyssey, like I've beat that main game, but like the boys are still asking for it every single night. And we're playing that. And obviously we haven't put as many hours into the game, but like we're trying to go back and collect every single Power Moon and every little power or purple little coin so we can purchase all the little outfits and the hats and the stickers and the little toys that Mario can buy to put in his Odyssey. Going back and just trying to do like every last little thing. And my boys they don't care. Like they don't care that I beat the main part of the game because I can go back and replay the big fights and whatnot. I thought Super Mario Odyssey actually, it would probably be my pick, to tell you the truth.
Really?
Even though it kind of came out later in the year, that would be my pick. I had a lot of fun with Zelda and I loved it, but man, this Mario game is fan-freaking-tastic.
That is very interesting. I would be interested to see how the votes actually came in if it was really close. I don't know if
I don't know.
See that from here, but and so Zelda, Breath of the Wild won that as well as best game direction, which I thought was interesting as well.
And I could understand that.
And are you familiar with some of these other games though? Obviously
for best game direction
or game of the year, yeah.
I didn't get the chance to play Horizon Zero Dawn. That was game of the year. I know quite a bit about it. And it's a game that I probably would play if I get some free time and kind of work through some of the games that are kind of sitting on my shelf to play. I don't know much about Persona 5. I'm pretty sure it's an RPG type game.
Yep.
Didn't get a chance to play it. One of the interesting things I thought was the winner of Best Narrative, which is basically they're saying like this has an outstanding story, and the winner of that was this game called What Remains of Edith Finch. And I don't know anything about this game. Like for me, I never really heard about it. Like there wasn't a lot of buzz, but everyone I've talked to that's played this game said it was fantastic, like a really, really great story and like something that should be played.
Do you know the general plot or no? Is it like an action? Is it no?
I don't know anything about it. like zero. It was just one of those games for me that like really flew under the radar. But I really enjoy story-driven games.
Right.
There's something about a game that is story-driven that's like maybe 12 to 15 hours, kind of like The Last of Us, where it takes you like emotionally on a journey, and like you go through this experience and it feels like you just finished reading a book almost, because you're, get this real in-depth look at the characters and what's going on. Mm-hmm. And I love that. Like, that's very satisfying to me when a game ends like that. But at the same time, it also leaves me feeling like, no, like, I've got to move on now. And they were, this was part of me for that short period of time.
Yep.
And some games, like, the story just sticks with you for a long time afterwards. And so I love games like that. But
that's cool.
I haven't played this one.
I did look at a few of the just kind of the preview, videos they have for some of these games. The Wolfenstein 2 game looks unreal. Like it looks really. I mean, it's totally graphic and gory and all the rest. But
right.
And Resident Evil 7 would give a grown man nightmares. But anyway, just some
right.
phenomenal picks, and obviously those that won, great, but those that were also nominated, some fantastic games out there. So
here's the last one I want to talk about, and then we can move on. Best art direction went to a game called Cuphead. And Cuphead is kind of like in the art style of like how cartoons looked in like the 1930s, 1920s, yep. 1930s. And everyone I've talked to says it's a really fun game, but it's brutal. Like, it is so unforgiving. It's like the old NES games, right? Where like you had to like learn the patterns to the game, and you had to get the muscle memory. And if you missed, oops, sorry, start the level over again. It doesn't matter how close to the end you were. And that game won, and it was up against games like Destiny 2, which is visually very striking and amazing, and Breath of the Wild and Persona 5 and Horizon Zero Dawn, like games that are like current gen games that have a feel like they belong on a current generation. But the one that won has the art style of something from the 1920s and 1930s. And I think that's really kind of a cool thing. Like, it looked different. It really stood out. And I haven't played it personally, because it's not available on PS4. It's only available on Xbox. But I mean, I've watched some video. It looks like a lot of fun.
It looks very stylized. Yeah, I'd be interested. I haven't seen that preview video yet, but I might watch the trailer for it. So
you should take a look at it. That's all I had for Rebel Intelligence this week. Steve, you have anything else?
I'm good.
Well, I am glad you're good, my friend. Let's move on and do the thing we do. Every week, Steve, we ask our listeners, our super friends, if you will, a question. And last week we did it again, and we asked them. We said, like, what's the one thing you look forward to at this time of year, around Christmas time?
Right.
And I want to start over on Twitter, and let's start with Bah Humbug Surge. He says, just spending time with the family. Loved ones are what matters. And that's Bah Humbug Surge at @backlog_blues.
Gift that keeps on giving. That is so true. And oftentimes so quickly lost in the commercializing of Christmas. So very cool.
Right.
Good
comment. Scrooge's Prize at Trash Turkey says, the Christmas Eve candlelight service at church. Like, that's the one thing, like, Christmas isn't, perfect without.
We don't do that in our church, but my wife and I have gone several times to a church where she grew up in her neighborhood, and they do it, which is cool because the priest or whomever is leading the service will start it, but everybody is given a candle when they walk in. And we were up on the balcony of this church, so we 50 rows back or whatever, and you see that the priest lights the candle, then he lights it, and everybody passes the flame around. And of course they make the analogy of just spreading the light of Christ, but it was really a powerful visual once the whole church was set ablaze with candles. It was really cool.
See, it's interesting you say that, because like John at Sir John 11 says, following up kind of the idea of like the Christmas Eve candlelight service, he says that singing Silent Night while holding the candles and like through candlelight, singing that is like something he looks forward to every year. Like, that's really special to him.
That's really cool.
So I gotta imagine that's just really cool. Yeah, we don't really do that in our church, but that sounds like a great time.
Yeah.
Paul Calico at PCalico84 says The food I love during the holiday season is my wife's aunt's. She makes an enchilada casserole for Christmas that they only make that time of the year. He says, hashtag so good. And can't forget the Star Wars in the last few years. It says, Merry Christmas, guys. Merry Christmas, Paul.
I love how different like food becomes, like enchiladas for Christmas. You just think about like a ham. We used to get Chinese takeout. My family would always get for Christmas Eve. We would get, I don't even remember.
Was it smiling at you? Smiling?
No. So.
Bear the Hairless at Chad Fackler 1 says, getting together with family and friends that we only get to see this time of the year. 24 hours of Christmas story and cookies. Merry Christmas, guys.
Hairless Bear. I like that. Is that a new commenter, Chad?
Bear the Hairless at Chad Fackler 1. I believe he has commented a time or two before.
Glad you're still listening.
That is all we had over on the Twitter, but we also, Steve, have a voicemail to listen to that was sent in to us.
Really?
So let's give that a listen, shall we?
Absolutely.
Oh, hello, Fortress of Nerditude. Oh, I'm back with another bad impression, brother. Oh, yeah. It's the Groucho Man, once again from Las Vegas, Nevada. I don't feel this impression is as good as the last. However, I did want to answer 2 questions. I'm only answering 1 question. My mind's a little rusty since, I ain't been in my right mind lately. Anyway, there are only 2 movies that I watch for Christmas. The first one, Santa with Muscles, starring my old friend Hulk Hogan. While I can't say that it's a good movie, I like to watch it. I like to watch it a lot. And then after that, I go to a guy that I didn't know very well. However, his name is Bill Goldberg, and his movie is Santa Sleigh. Oh yeah, brother. Can you dig it? After that, there are no other movies, because Christmas only comes when the wrestlers are in town. Have a great 2018, Fortress. Dig it.
Christmas only comes when the wrestlers are in town.
Santa with Muscles. I will just say that it has 2.4 stars on IMDb out of 8,000 reviews. So I think it's probably one you'd want to, throw in the old DVD player.
Yeah,
the old VHS.
You definitely want to get that. Steve, we also have an email from our friend Peter Christensen. He says, Dear Nerds, Spencer, you're lucky you only peed your pants when reading about the sugar-free gummy bears. Did you read those reviews, Steve?
Oh my gosh. Yes, I did. It was hilarious.
It is
my favorite line. My favorite line was, I pressure washed my toilet with my anus.
So one of the reviews,
I shared it with some colleagues. It was hilarious.
One of the reviews says, "I now have PTSD."
Or the story of the guy that was in the military and he gave it to everybody, and he's like, the moans. It sounded like a whale being murdered by a blind man with a machete.
I gotta say, that. Super Friends. I know we talked about it last week, but literally it is one of those things that just makes me cry. I was talking about it with my coworkers, and he says, "Have you read the reviews for the 3 Wolf Moon T-shirt?" And I was like, "No."
Those as well.
So I went and looked it up. Oh gosh, that was
talked about
so
magical
good.
powers that it gave people.
Anyway, thank you for reminding me of this, Peter.
Yes.
He says, at Christmas, I look forward to Seattle's Christmas boat parade. A few dozen cruise ships and private boats get decorated with Christmas lights and sail to different waterfront locations around Seattle. And the lead boat has a choir on board, and they project the choir's performance to people watching from the shore. It's beautiful, fun, free, and absolutely my favorite Christmas event. Merry Christmas, Peter Christensen.
Very cool. That is interesting.
I like that. I like stuff like that. We don't get out and do as much of that as I would like. currently, but I just like the idea that, that they're out there watching the boats going, and they got choirs singing and hallelujah choruses and, Kings of Kings and, Handel's Messiah, all that. Sounds
one of the things that our family loves to do is to go and look at Christmas lights. There's a place in it's called Saginaw. It's just a suburb of Chicago, and all the whole neighborhood gets on board, whether they're Christian or not. Everybody decorates to the hilt, and there's this one house. It's a 3-story house, and they have windows that are all on one side of the house. And what they've done is they have a big tree like base on the bottom, a middle one on the on the second floor, a littler one on the third floor, and then on the top of their roof they have a small tree in the top with boards breaking out, and it looks so perfect. It literally looks like they have a tree going through their entire house. It's hilarious.
Wow.
And then there's a house by my in-laws' home, and they decorate it to the nines, and they have it set to a radio station. And there is like a line of cars, and we sit there for probably like half an hour, and we listen to the whole set of songs, and my kids love it. We go every single year, and it's all synchronized to the music, and you've probably seen that.
Yeah.
But I have to imagine the neighbors are like, oh my gosh, not again.
It's that Clark Griswold, man.
Absolutely.
Putting up all those lights. Yeah. You know what, Steve? I love the interaction we have with our super friends each and every week. I once again want to say, as we're coming up to Christmas time, thank you so much for this. It brings so much joy to us. We focus on the joy of Christmas, but this brings joy to my heart. I know it's a little thing. I know it's just a fun little podcast that you and I do here.
Yeah.
But I do enjoy this interaction, and every week we ask you a question, and we tell you, you could find us on Twitter, which is, at Fort of Nerd, and Facebook, which is facebook.com/FortofNerd, or you can email us, fortofnerd@gmail.com, or the phone number, 801-477-7687. We ring, we roll that off the tongue, but each and every week, our super friends and our listeners always come out and give us just fun stuff. And, I got people that are sending me news articles saying hey, did you see this? Did you see this during the week? And it's just, just a ton of fun. It's become a thing that I look forward to each and every week as the interaction.
Well, and being able to really connect with people. I mean, you were out in L.A. and you looked up one of our super friends regarding, the extra ticket you had to the playoffs game, right? Which is just, that's cool, right? It's not just an email or a Twitter, whatever else. It's more than that, So, we really do. I echo the sentiment that Spencer said, that we really appreciate you guys reaching out, spending a little bit of time with us, and making a friendship. So, thank you.
Yeah.
It's a gift to us during this Christmas season.
It is, and we also appreciate you guys going out there and giving us reviews and retweeting our tweets and sharing out our stuff, and telling your friends and your neighbors and your family and your postman and the guy that cuts your lawn about the podcast, because we hear every week from someone new. It seems like lately, answering a question or letting us know something, and we're glad that this thing has grown and that we're moving forward, and that you guys are a big part of it.
So rate us on iTunes so the Fortress of Nerditude isn't as hard to find as a delicious piece of fruitcake.
Really? Fruitcake? That crap's nasty.
That's right. It's hard to find. You can't find a good piece of fruitcake. It is nasty through and through.
Do you like fruitcake?
No, I don't.
Okay, because if you like fruitcake and eggnog, we got to have a talk.
I dip the fruitcake in the eggnog. No, but have you ever actually felt like a fruitcake? They weigh it's one of those things you pick up and you're like, this shouldn't weigh that much. This is unnatural.
It feels like someone took a loaf of bread and dipped it in water and then wrapped it up so it's soggy and moist.
That water is called rum.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, thanks
not
again,
a fan.
guys.
Not a big fan.
Yeah, and you shouldn't be.
Steve, last year for our Christmas episode, we came up with this idea. We were going to have a little Christmas battle, so to speak, where we were going to keep score and keep tally and compare some Christmas things. And you wanted a shot at the title. You lost last year, and you wanted a rematch. I
lose per se. Okay.
So this is Rocky 2. I'm going to give you a shot back at the title and let you see if you can dethrone the champ.
My Thunder Lips?
It's not Christmas unless the wrestlers are here.
2 references to Hulk Hogan in one podcast?
Awesome.
Yes.
Anyway, so Steve, this is your idea. So you tell me what you want to do this year.
So here's what I thought. So we would hit on a few different categories, and those categories would be number 1, best Christmas present.
Okay.
Number 2 would be worst Christmas experience, or whatnot, because we've all had them. And the third, I'm trying to find my notes here. Do you remember what I told you?
I think you said funniest Christmas story.
Ah, yes. Funniest Christmas story. So, yeah. So I thought we'd just kind of go through and I would let you go first. And if you want to go through with maybe your best Christmas present, let's start with that, shall we?
Wow. My best Christmas present. Yeah, I would like to say like I've got something like off the, prepared to, weave some tale of, of the best Christmas present ever. I don't know that I have anything really prepared, but like one that really does stand out in my mind was the year that my parents got my brother and I the Super Nintendo. Like that just still like stands out. One, because it was a really funny kind of experience where, and I think we talked about this maybe last year, where we started opening up presents and my dad was kind of doling out the presents and he handed me a Super Nintendo game by accident. And I opened it up and I was like, we don't have a Super Nintendo, Dad. Oh, yes, we do. And we started pointing at the big box that was obviously the Super Nintendo. And my mom just looked at my dad. She's like, Gary. He's like, what? I'm sorry. I mean, I didn't know. Because, my mom had like this whole like numbering system, like for years, like she would like have the presents and she would just put like this very small, like in a bottom corner on the back, it would say like 1 or 19 or, 6 or 7 or whatever it was. And she knew that like number 19 actually went to this kid and was this. And so then when she got around to putting like the little tags that said like to and from, that she knew what it was. And apparently
That's
Dad...
very elaborate.
Yeah. Apparently Dad was giving out the presents that year. But the Super Nintendo year was a really good Christmas present because it was something that we weren't expecting. It was something that my brother and I both just went crazy over and were super excited to get. And, we got to play it for hours and hours and hours on end for, like the next few years easily. We had that thing up until we got a PlayStation 1 and then still had it. I think we still had it when we got our Nintendo 64 even. So I'm going to say that was probably my best Christmas present that I received, and that was my brother and I.
Jesus.
Oh, come on. Here we go.
I'm not kidding. No, no, I would say, I was thinking about 2 different gifts, and
You mean GIFs?
Oh my gosh! One that was pretty awesome was I got like it was a stereo, and my mom had taken me to the store like months before because we were looking at like CD players. And this is like right when CD players came out, and it was like a 3-disc changer. It was in Iowa. It was like this really nice brand, and so we were looking at it, and the sales guy at Best Buy or wherever it was like, well, this one you can get for like $300, but it doesn't have like the surround sound, whatever, like, akin to like Bose, yada, yada, yada. And this other one, it was way more expensive, has this function, and it's really just cutting edge and all the rest. And so we looked at it together, and we didn't end up buying it that day. And I didn't think, it was way more expensive than any gift should be. And I remember opening it for Christmas, and there was the Bose version of this CD player, and I had that stereo CD player for years, like into my married life. And this was like, junior high when I got it.
Are you talking about the Iowa one?
Yeah. Yep.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, it might even still be at my mom's house. They might still even use that. I don't even know. So that was one. It was and it was one where like we came from like a middle class family, and Christmas was always probably much more generous than I deserved. But that was one that really stood out. Not because oh look how much they spent on me, but it was really. I knew it was a sacrifice to buy something that expensive and that nice, and it really meant a lot to me. And I kept it forever. I mean, I used the crap out of that thing. But the second one was Fireball Island. I did get that for a gift. And what was cool about that is as I've mentioned it plenty of times on this podcast, it's a huge box, right? And when you the weeks and days leading up to Christmas, and of course you kind of. And Spencer is more guilty of this than I, but
what?
You kind of you look at the boxes and you shake them and you do whatever. Like this box was no joke, like 3.5 feet long by like 2 feet wide. It was this huge box in the back. I'm like, is it a flat screen TV before they were ever invented? No, I had no idea what it was. But anyway, that was huge and got a lot of play out of that. And it was cool, too, because my mom and I would play, and my parents were divorced, so it was my mom and I for many years before she was remarried. We would play a lot of games together. And I just remember great times like playing Life and Monopoly and Fireball Island and other games like that, just having fun, laughing, and just, so a lot of sweet memories from that. So that's kind of my combo answer, I guess. So
I want to add one other thing, since you wanted to also pull the Jesus card. For Christmas. Charlie, Charlie was born just, 11 days before Christmas, December 14th, 2012. And that was a pretty sweet Christmas gift. I got to admit, being a little more serious. The other one, was when I was a kid, but as an adult, I became a father for the first time right before Christmas 5 years ago. And I remember just seeing him for the first time and holding him for the first time. And I remember that Christmas, we put him in a little stocking and took a picture of it on the bed where it looked like he was out of the stocking, and we kind of wrapped him up a little bit and put him under the tree and tried to take some photos, and it just didn't really work out the way I envisioned it.
Later that Christmas, Brita's like, why is there coal in this stocking? You're like, that was a stocking Charlie was in. That's not coal!
But on a more serious note, Charlie being born right before Christmas was probably one of the best Christmas presents we ever received as adults. But the Super Nintendo as I'm a kid. Now I say that, and how do we score this? I mean,
this one might have to be a tie. I don't know if we, I don't know. I'm not saying that Charlie is akin to the Fireball Island or anything like that. Fireball Island's an awesome game, but let me ask you this though:
you're going to compare my kid against a Parker Brothers game?
They were brothers, man. Did you when he was born, when he was so fresh and newly born? I would be very tempted to wrap him in swaddling clothes and put him in some kind of manger with some hay and he was so brand new born. Did you do that at all? Were you asked by the congregation, be could we borrow your son for the pageant?
They actually did ask us that, but then right before the thing, he had a big blowout, and they're like, that was the devil that just came out of him. We don't want him playing Jesus.
He's been exorcised. They've exorcised the demons.
Yeah, no one asked us to use our sweet boy as the savior of the world in lieu of.
Yes,
but that would have been funny though. That would have been awesome. I didn't even think I should have thought and got some towels or something and wrapped us up to look like Joseph and Mary and put him in whatever, stuck a little hay around the side of him or something. But nope, I wasn't that. And part of the reason I guess we didn't think of that was also the same Christmas that my mom and her husband Roger came out to visit, and my mom.
Everybody got deathly sick, right?
Everyone got deathly Roger got deathly sick.
Your mom passed out.
Brita was recovering from the pregnancy still and kind of having a little bit of a hard time. And then my mom passed out and fell and cracked her head on the tile floor, and we had to have her rushed in an ambulance to the ER, and she ended up being having all these dizzy spells and vertigo for the next few years after that Christmas. So it was
you should have saved that for your most horrible worst memory.
It was it was a rough Christmas that year, but like Charlie was pretty awesome. Like he was actually the easiest part of the whole thing. I was like, you guys all just take naps. Let me deal with the kid, please.
Oh my gosh, that's horrific. Well, let's move on. Let's shelf this one. Let's move on to the next round, which is the worst Christmas ever.
You start.
I had some bad Christmases just because of my situation at home. Like, so my parents were divorced, and so my dad would always come pick me up on Christmas like day, and so I never had a chance to like play with my presents at all. So he'd like come up, and it was fine. Like he'd come and it was just what we did. But he'd pick me up, and I would be touted around like, you know, like a dog in the car. Like we'd have to go and visit all of my in-laws and all of my family on that side, which was great. It was great to see all the cousins and whatnot, but I always felt like a man without a country. Like we'd go and like kind of pop in on people and be like, hey, just wanted to say hi and visit you, yada, 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 on Christmas Day when they were kind of having their own Christmas, their own family. And I don't know, it was always kind of an awkward thing. And so this one particular Christmas, I remember that we had made the rounds and visited all the rest, and we were going back to my dad's house, and we had stopped at a gas station to get gas or whatever, and we left, and like 2 miles down the road, the police pulled us over. And I think it was because my dad like forgot to pay for the gas. This is like before, like this is the like before the advent of like credit cards and uses of credit cards, and right. So he'd pumped the gas and just forgotten about it because it was Christmas and I don't know, whatever. And so like the police had to like escort us back like on Christmas. He's like, I'm really sorry about this. So he's like, no, it's fine. But it was just a bad Christmas. And I never got to play with my presents.
Yeah. You know, I would imagine that would be tough. Like as a small kid, like all you want to do is like play with your toys and, you know, kind of have kind of like what you would think would be a kind of a normal thing. But instead you're having to go around and visit, you know, lots of family and I would imagine you still have maybe that experience somewhat, because I know you have your side of the family and you have your wife's side of the family that all kind of live within about an hour of you, so to speak. Or thereabouts. So I imagine you still spend a lot of time on Christmas Day or thereabouts trying to make the rounds and see everyone. And
it does make it tough. You know, my father, my in-laws, and then my mother, you know, all live, like you said, in about an hour distance. But on Christmas Day, like we just basically say, look, we're here. If you guys want to come see us, make the drive. But, you know, this Christmas, we're going to, you know, do the same as like we're with our family. But it's hard, you know, with in-laws. And I'm sure a lot of our listeners may have the same situation where, you know, you always try to please, right? You always try to, you know, and people start saying, well, you were with them for Thanksgiving and you were with them for, you know, this and that. And I'm like, there's no keeping score. We just try to see everybody. So, but we do our best, and thankfully, all of our parents are so gracious and they're so just loving, and they really like each other. So there are times when we kind of get together, you know, different portions, and even my mom and my dad, like they've been divorced for, you know, 40 years, they get along really well, and it's made my side of it really easy and made it much easier than it could be otherwise. So,
okay, I'm gonna get real here for a minute. My worst Christmas was the Christmas of 2002. I was in college at the time. I was married. I was married to my ex-wife. I was newly married. I'd only been married about 5 months, and I was in a class, and I get a phone call, and it was from my ex-wife, and she starts, you know, saying, you know, hey, you gotta come home right now. You gotta come home right now. And I was like, I'm in the middle of class. What's going on? And this is like 2002. This is like, for me, this was like, I'd barely had a cell phone, and this was kind of a new experience. And she kept calling me. And finally I was like, okay, let me take this and kind of see what this is all about. And she says, you got to come home right now. You got to come home right now. You got to call your mom. And so I remember that I just picked up my stuff and I raced home, and I called my mom. And when I called my mom, she says, I don't have a lot of time to talk. We're racing right now to the hospital. But your dad's been in a car accident. I don't know what's going on. We're on our way to the hospital. I'm going to be there in about 10 minutes. I'll call you immediately. My two sisters still lived at home. My brother lived about an hour away, so he was able to go out there. And I was the only kid that like really lived far away. About 15 minutes had gone by and I hadn't heard from my mom, and I started getting a little nervous and a little panicky. And then I let another 5 minutes go by. So it's now 10 minutes after when my mom said she'd call. And I called my mom, and it rang a couple times, and then the phone picked up, and she didn't say hello. All I heard were my mother trying to hold back tears, and she was kind of sobbing a little bit. And I really, in a very panicky voice, started saying, "Mom, Mom," like, and then she just said, "He's gone, Spence. He's gone." And I immediately broke into tears and started crying, because I knew what she was talking about. She was talking about my dad. It's a moment in time I'm never going to forget. And this happened right before Christmas. It was December 6th, 2002. It was we just passed the date 15 years ago, just a couple weeks back. I got on a plane, I flew home. The family was all there. We had the visitation and the funeral service. And that was hard. It was hard to get through, but it was like right before Christmas. And I remember, like, I ended up having to, because I left school early and I didn't finish my finals, and I had, like these 2 extra weeks at home. And like usually going home for Christmas would be like a special time. Like it would be a lot of fun, and, the family and everyone would be laughing and singing songs and, giving each other a hard time. And instead, like, it was like a very somber, like people just didn't talk much. And we just kind of walked through the house, and tried to get through the day, almost like we were just kind of on autopilot. Like, our brains were emotionally shut down, but like our bodies were still kind of moving around and doing the things they were supposed to do. And I remember like that Christmas came, and we got to Christmas morning, and like we couldn't go more than maybe about like 10 minutes before someone would inevitably break down crying. Because usually, like I told you, my dad would kind of like hand out a lot of the gifts to the kids and everyone. And my dad wasn't there, and I had to do that. And like that was a really hard moment for me, because I realized, again, for probably the umpteenth time, that my dad was gone. And I had to step into that role on Christmas morning that year to try to keep things moving along. And that was probably the worst Christmas I've ever had. It was a hard time for me personally. It was a hard time for our family. But we did have little moments, little pockets in that kind of Christmas that year where, we got a little bit of a break from kind of all the sadness. And, we had some really good friends, and the bishop in our ward came over and visited with us, and, just a lot of family and friends that were calling in and checking in. But that year obviously was the worst Christmas. And then for the next few years, Christmas always kind of seemed a little more somber, a little more down than it did. And over the years, as time has gone by, like I said, it's been 15 years now. Now when that time of the early December kind of rolls around, our thoughts obviously turn to our dad a little bit more, but like we try to celebrate the good that he was in this world and the light that his life was, and focus less on the fact that he's not here with us anymore. And so it's not as painful anymore. But it was a really stark realization this year when I realized it had been 15 years since I lost my dad. I was like, man, time just has flown by. But but I'd probably say that was my worst. I've had a couple other ones that weren't great, but for me, that was my worst.
You talk about how you try to remember the good and all the light his life brought, which it brought a lot of light to a lot of people, mine included. And I think it's kind of a beautiful thing because it's very analogous to Christ. And while we don't focus on his death, especially in our faith, we don't focus on his death. We focus on his life. And while he's not here with us, in the physical form, we can still celebrate him. And that's really what Christmas is about. So I think it's kind of a beautiful thing to do the same thing for your father and to celebrate his life, because it was an awesome life. And he is an awesome man. So.
And can I just say, and this is, I'm going to lighten it up a little bit because it's a little heavy, but if my dad were still around, you know how big of a fan of this show he would be? My dad loved all the kind of stuff that we talk about, and he would love that we are doing this. I'll just let you know that he would love that we talk about comic books and movies and video games and Star Trek and space, and he loved all of that stuff. He'd be our biggest super fan.
He'd definitely get on the Gmail and make some corny comments.
Totally.
I think about that story of Christ getting mad at the money changers outside the temple when he got mad and overturned the tables. And I think often about the times when your father used to pull out like a $5 bill during church. And he's like, all right, guys, gather around. He's like, all right, put your hand right here or over the head of Abraham Lincoln. He's like, if I drop this and you can catch it, you get to keep it. He would do this all the time. And he would like drop, and nobody could ever catch it. And you'd always miss it. So
yeah, he was no dummy. He understood that human response time to pinch your fingers was a lot slower than gravity.
Oh, so funny. So funny. I remember sometimes in church he'd come and be like, what would he would pay me, like he would give me money, and I forget what it was for. It was something about like, here's $5 for being my son's friend.
Yeah, he
did that a few times. Good times.
That's why we're friends.
I'm still getting payments. I'm part of the trust. Very good. Well, so I think the third category, which I don't remember what it was.
You wanted to do funniest Christmas story. I gotta say, Steve, for me, my funniest Christmas story. Oh, we probably actually even talked about this before, but you and I finding my brother's copy of WCW vs. NWO World Tour for the Nintendo 64, and using an X-Acto knife and slitting the plastic on that and opening it up and pulling it out and playing that thing and unlocking all the characters prior to Christmas. So that when Christmas Day comes out, you put the cartridge in, it's like, all the characters are unlocked. What's going on? I gotta admit,
that was awesome.
We played that game for 8 or 10 hours straight while the rest of the family was gone, and
they were asleep. It was Christmas Eve.
Was it Christmas? I thought it was like 2 days before.
No, maybe it was. I don't remember. We played it a few nights. I don't know.
That could be.
That was hilarious.
I gotta say also, my brother and I used to do this thing where we would find out gifts that that my mom and dad had gotten for us. And then we started playing this game where Josh, if you had a wish, for a Christmas gift, what would it be? And he'd be holding the boxes Spence, I really want a starter Bulls jacket. I'm like, Merry Christmas, Josh. And I'd hand him a gift, or he'd already had it and he'd open it up and that's what it was. And my mom was like, wait a minute, what's going on here? She couldn't figure out what was going on.
Your mom loved that.
Oh man!
Did you ever use the JC Penney's catalog to categorize all of the gifts that you wanted?
Yeah, we'd use that. We'd also use the Toys R Us catalog that would come once a year, and I'd mark down so many things, and then my mom would always be like, Spence, Toys R Us is a 45-minute drive. I'm not going there. I'm like, huh. She's like, here's the Pennies catalog.
That's right. That's right.
Well, what do you think, Steve? Who's the winner this year?
Well, as my Christmas gift to you.
Oh, here we go.
I will I will acquiesce and allow you to keep the trophy in your home.
Boom, baby. 2-time back-to-back champ.
Oh.
Okay,
that
so
was a good time.
let me ask you, like,
Eggnog reigns supreme.
a more serious note, though.
Sure.
What do you guys do in your family? What do you do, like, for real for Christmas to, like, help you kind of remember the reason for the season, as they say, the reason why we actually celebrate? Do you guys have, like, stuff that you do that, like, you try to like help kind of keep you in the real mood of, like, thinking about, like, why we're really celebrating?
Yeah. Actually, just last night we had a little family. We call it family home evening, but it's kind of just a time when we get together once a week as a family and just kind of have a spiritual thought and kind of a more spiritual, activity or something. We play games or whatever. But last night, Carrie had gotten from the library this movie called The Nativity Story. It's new. It's probably only been out maybe 4 or 5 years. It is so well done, and it's a full 2-hour movie or hour and a half movie or whatever. We watched that last night, and when the movie ended, there was just like this silence, like this peace silence and all the kids just were sitting there kind of like very, very thoughtful. And, so we do things like that. We've done a pageant before in the past, and our kids still talk about it. Addison was like, I remember I was the innkeeper and we only had one innkeeper. So I had to like run from door to door and be like, no room here, no room here. And I think, when we can tell our children and show our children that what happened isn't just a story or a fable or some nice thing we talk about. It really is kind of the reason for the season. And so this year we did something special. Actually, it happened this weekend. Actually, so my father, as you know, has gone through brain surgery the last few years.
Right.
And he lives in an apartment. He's only working about 1 day a week now, just because it's just hard. It's hard for him to work and to remember things and whatnot. And so he's down to 1 day a week. So he's a lot of time on his hands, and he spends it in his little apartment and whatnot. And we thought, we would do something for him because we knew he wouldn't do it himself. So we went down on Saturday night, about 4:00, and we took with us our car chocked full with decorations, with a tree, with everything. And he was at work at the time. He works on Saturdays. And so my cousin lives with him, and so she let us in, and we decorated. I mean, it was almost like Elf, like the day after when like Buddy
yeah.
I mean, like the store manager comes in and is like, "What the heck? We got an inside job." I mean, my daughter made like the thing you made in elementary school with the chain link with the paper, all over his apartment. We took like these beautiful bulbs and put them with string, hung them all around his house. We strung them from the ceiling. My kids made like paper snowflakes. And then, we just decorated his house. And so when he got home, he had a Christmas party that night at his work. We turned all the lights off. So he walks in, he's like, "What the heck?" And suddenly, like, Carter plugs in the tree, so that blazes, and then Addison flips on the lights, and we're like, "Surprise!" And he was speechless. And he texted me afterwards, and this isn't, to toot my own horn or anything like that, but you talk about, getting the Christmas spirit. We talked about it afterwards with our kids, and they said, we were able to bring the Christmas spirit to Grandpa. And he said this. He said, "Steve, I already know the correct words will elude me, but I will try. You are so much more than amazing, my amazing son. I truly believe that the Savior himself is so very pleased with what you and the kids did for me here today. If he were teaching about service, he would use you as an example. I will try to work harder to deserve your love and respect you have for me. All my love, Dad." And again, that's not any self-aggrandizement. It's just, I thought about what I could give my dad and for Christmas that, he has everything he needs, but just to give him the gift of Christmas spirit, I thought was a really powerful experience for him and for me and for our kids.
That's awesome, Steve.
Yeah.
Our kids are like really young, and so like we're trying to start like helping kind of like reinforce like the real reason why we celebrate Christmas. And so we have this like little nativity. It's this like little felt nativity on every day, or not a nativity. It's an advent calendar, but the advent calendar is the nativity. And every day, like we get up in the morning and, each boy takes a turn. So like, one day's Charlie, one day's Jackson, and we have them, put the next thing up on the calendar and, whatever. And so we're trying to remind them like why we're doing this, like what's coming up and how the baby Jesus is the last thing that we put up there. And we've been talking about it. Our church had this, what they called it, I don't know if they called it a giving tree. I think it was called a giving tree, where they had this at our party. They had kind of this Christmas party we had. We invite all the neighbors and, everyone's welcome in the neighborhood to come, not just members of the church. But we had this tree where they'd asked us to get gift cards to Walmart in like $10 increments. And basically you could go and hang like a $10 gift card for Walmart on the tree. And in exchange, you would take off a little ornament. And we let the boys hang up the little cards and and then they got to pull the ornament off, and we told them why we were doing that and that we were trying to help out people that, didn't have stuff for Christmas, who didn't have presents. And then we kind of tried to reinforce that by the next day we said, okay, boys, we're going to have you guys pack up some of your old toys so that we can give them to kids that don't have toys, so that they can have a chance at having, kind of a Merry Christmas. And Charlie was not stingy, because that's not the right word, but like he was a little cautious with how many toys that he had, whereas Jackson was like, this one and this one, and that like Jackson would have given away every single toy he owned. He just I don't know, maybe he just like putting toys in a bag. I don't know.
He didn't know where they were going.
Right. But we kind of have this thought that, as we go forward each year, we want to, reinforce ideas of, what Christmas is. We want to start, giving more to the needy. And then every year before Christmas, we want to have the boys give away a few of their toys, which is twofold. One, the opportunity to give a toy that could bring joy to another child, that opportunity. But two, like they get enough toys at Christmas that like if you just never threw anything away or never got rid of anything or never donated anything, like you'd end up getting buried in a landslide of toys with the moment you open their door. So it's like we're trying to do that, so they kind of have this idea. But then like we go out and there's this little like someone in kind of the neighborhood real close to us has this like lit up nativity, and they love to go look at Christmas lights, and we always make sure we drive past that place on the way to look at Christmas lights, and on the way back, and we explain like what why the baby Jesus is there, and kind of what's going on, and like they get it. They're young, but like they understand, and so we're trying to do more to remember why we celebrate this time of year and what it really means versus, the commercialization kind of aspect of it.
That's cool.
Plus, we also watch Charlie Brown Christmas, which kind of hits on that topic a little bit. So, yeah.
That's too funny. I love whenever we watch Peanuts, I'm always like amazed at how mean they are to Charlie. You blockhead! I'm like, oh gosh.
Seriously.
That's awesome.
Every single time.
I love the giving away of the toys. It threshes out. It's almost like giving blood. You get rid of the old blood, get the new blood. You get the new toys in.
Yeah.
But that aspect of giving of themselves, which is really cool. So.
Yeah.
Well, that is awesome. That is awesome.
Little something we're doing. Obviously this is going to be our last episode before the actual Christmas, and so. We wanted to talk about Christmas because it's obviously the big thing that's going on this time of the year. But I want to say from myself, from the Stapletons, I hope all of you that are listening to this podcast, I hope you have a Merry Christmas. I hope your Christmas is happy and joyous, and that you get to be surrounded by friends and family and loved ones, that you get to eat as much amazing food as you possibly can, and that you get to be embraced by those that you love, and that you have an opportunity to remember why we celebrate this season and why it's important. And we hope that you come back next week after Christmas and join us once again.
Absolutely, and from the Maduras as well, we hope that you know that you have a friend in us. So if by chance family is far and friends are few, know that we're here for you. Christ is the reason, and we are grateful for all that He did for us, that we can celebrate this time. So be good to each other, be good to those that you know, you don't know, and pass that good along. And so from all of us at the Fortress of Nerditude to all of you out there, good night and Merry Christmas.
May the Force be with you.
Always.